All right. So hello, everyone. This is Dennis Schultz with Blacks in Technology. I am happy to have the team from McKinsey here. Today, we're going to be discussing building your skills and following your career pathways and why that is far less important than building your skill set. It is far less important than following your career pathway. And with the team here, we're going to have a vibrant discussion. Hopefully we'll get a lot of questions answered. But before we get kicked off, I want to just give everyone some housekeeping rules. This is going to be a recorded session, so we have disabled the communication vocally for everybody. So you'll be able to communicate through chat if you have questions. If you want to ask your question verbally at the end, we may open up the mics for that, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them as soon as possible. With that, I want to hand it over to Ademola. I'm going to give it a shot. Olukoya.
Olukoya.
I was close. I was close. All right. Who is going to introduce the McKinsey team? Take it away.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Ademola Olukoya. I am a senior technology architect and manager at McKinsey Company out of the New York office. So shout out to the colleagues and participants here from the New York City area. I've been at McKinsey going on almost 23 years. And I'd say I love being at the firm. I'll quickly touch on what McKinsey is doing both internally and externally in the technology space. And subsequently, I will introduce our three of my esteemed colleagues and panelists today. And then we'll just quickly get into some questions and then open it up to questions to the audience. Like most companies, McKinsey utilizes technology quite a lot. And we have an internal technology function of which I'm a part of, and we have several business functions or business units that utilize technology for our clients. We have a digital and analytics function that really thinks through with clients how to enhance and harness technology in really building up and enhancing their businesses. We have Quantum Black. We have Cloud by McKinsey, which is a function that actually helps to think with clients how to move some of their resources into the cloud, how to build cloud solutions that help them to draw true value. And we have Internal McKinsey. Within Internal McKinsey, I lead a team of cloud engineers that helps us think about the best ways to move our on-prem resources. Those are solutions that currently lay in our data centers into the cloud, not only securely, but thinking about the most efficient way, the most cost-effective way, and moving those solutions in a way that is multi-present and resilient to things like cyber attacks and those sorts of things. But how did I get into technology? Ironically, I started off in this career first as a civil engineer, right? And it was one winter morning, I would never forget in college, one winter morning, I was out doing surveying and it was probably about 20 degrees. And I just said, no, this is not for me. I can't be surveying out in the cold, holding a tripod. Said, this is not for me. There has to be a better way. Right, and stumbled into computer science through a colleague of mine, and that's where it started. But it's not really about the career. I then started to build different skills, right? I initially wanted to be in mobile computing, so I looked into the skills to help me get into mobile computing. So if folks, hopefully I'm not dating myself, do remember BlackBerry, right, was a thing of the past, but I helped to introduce BlackBerry into the firm. And from there, I moved into many fields of technology, from project management to product management to e-forensics. But that was my foray into technology, and that continues to be my foray into technology because it's about just first thinking about what is it that I want to do, right, in technology, and then building up those skills and just connecting with people to help build the skills. to continue to further my journey. Let me quickly introduce the three esteemed panelists. Shalona Melton, a colleague of mine, and then I'll introduce Franz Hall, and then Lamont Atkins. So let's first start off with Shalona Melton.
So good afternoon, all. I'm Shalona Melton, a product adoption expert at McKinsey, and what we call our tech ecosystem, as Ademola shared. So what does a product adoption expert at McKinsey do? I work to drive digital transformation within our firm. When we think about the different technologies that organizations implement, how do we roll it out without friction? When you think about when we all transitioned from working in an on-site format to we all became virtually about almost 3 years ago, how did organizations implement those changes? Those are things I think about. Different products, who do we target? What messaging do we utilize? How do you solve for problems? How do you work with the tech teams, organizational behavior, business units, think about user research, all of those things I take into account when thinking about go-to-market plans and rolling out different digital and transformations among organizations. I had a little bit different start than Ademola. I was luckily and blessed enough in high school to be exposed to STEM, and whether it's biology clubs or working AutoCAD classes or working with robotics to build out cars. But I did a huge shift when I went to college, both for undergrad and grad school. So I stayed strictly with marketing, but I knew integrating and being a part of technology was my passion because it's all surrounding us. Whether you like it or not, you're being tracked. So whether you're buying something online, you're looking at those next pair of shoes, or when you think about how you're getting those auto emails, even though you only scan something for like 2.5 seconds, all of a sudden they say, remember what you have in your cart. Utilizing AI to roll out marketing campaigns, it's all surrounding us. So that kind of led me from my career in the finance industry when I was based in New York, now being based in Atlanta, thinking about working with McKinsey. McKinsey is not only a consulting company, it's also a tech organization to where we think about how do we serve up the best technologies to our clients, but also rolling it out internally and thinking about what's kind of best in class technologies and how do we stay abreast and stay agile of what's going on. So one thing, like Ademola mentioned, you think about that skill set, having that flexibility and being flexible to pivot really quickly, knowing that the economy we live in is always changing. So you can't be stuck in one place at the same time and get really comfortable. You have to be comfortable with change. Being able to manage stakeholders and build those relationships are kind of key skill sets. Don't be afraid to step outside of your box and build relationships with someone who doesn't look like you, because a lot of the times we're the only in the room, whether the only Black person or the only woman or the only male in the room. That's not a lot for me. But I think being comfortable being the only and being bold and being courageous to let your voice and your expertise being known. So one kind of skill sets that I think are very transferable from role to role is that relationship building, that stakeholder management, being agile, being open to learn. You have to be willing to continuously learn throughout your path and not be stuck in one place and saying, well, I did this 10 to 15 years ago. Ademola would tell you he's been with the company 23 years. I've been here for 3 years. It's always a journey with learning. And I'm glad to be here today. So I pass along to Franz.
Thank you so much, Shalona. So hello, family. Good afternoon. Greetings from Copenhagen, Denmark. That's where I am on a business trip for McKinsey today. I'm Franz Hall. I'm a senior advisor in the risk and resilience practice at McKinsey, working from the firm's Stamford office. My pathway into tech, I feel like I've always been in tech. In high school, I'm going to really date myself. Our high school had opened up one of the first computer labs, and the computers that were there were Commodore 64s. Now, I'm not sure anyone on this call know what that is, but I remember that at the time I was fascinated because at around that time, the Atari 2600 gaming system had become popular. And while my family yeah, I see you, Dennis. While my family would not buy me an Atari 2600, I had been involved in some high school activities as vice president of my student body to go out to Long Island and visit with some other families that had one. So I just got interested in computers from high school, and I think one thing led to another, and that actually became my major in college. Right out of college, I was hired up by a major Wall Street firm and spent most of my career there, over about 25 years, working on Wall Street. And so I've been started out as a coder, application developer, and then transitioned into risk management. And that's what I'm doing and focusing now. In terms of how did I get my role at McKinsey, I would say it's divine providence, synchronicity, karma, grace, and a lot to do with Mr. Ademola, who's actually the moderator of today's event. I'll say this, sometimes in life, you just never know who you're going to lean on, speak to, get advice from, and Ademola has been that person for me. And when I was seeking to make a career change, I was very much attracted to McKinsey's ability to impact and influence the strategic decision makers of the biggest, brightest, most influential companies in the world. And I viewed that as an opportunity for me to expand my skill set strength, but then also just to also push myself in an area that I had not been in before, because I'd worked for one company on Wall Street, primarily focused on risk and resilience for financial services. And by being at McKinsey now, it's really afforded me the opportunity to impact other sectors as well. I echo, in wrapping up here, I'll echo what Shauna said in terms of what you need to focus on in terms of skills. I agree with the theme of our talk, that focusing on your skills is like really important. And I would just say in 30 seconds, there are three things that in my career I've seen, but it's also helped me. For you, I want to make sure that number one, you have a clarity of purpose. Do you know what you want to do? Are you clear about it? Because it turns out that the most successful are those among us that have clarity of vision. They kind of know what they want, or at least they're seeking it. It's my understanding that there are two types of people generally, seekers and strivers. The strivers will know what they want from day one. And I think I'm lucky that I am in the striver. I knew what I wanted from high school. But for some of us are seekers. Like my wife is a seeker. She tries things, doesn't work, she tries something else. It's okay if that's, but you got to be clear. Number two, you have to have grit. Now, grit is that where passion meets perseverance. It's about being resilient. It's about getting up, trying again, right? Learning how to push through. And again, the successful people are the ones that know that it requires hard work to get to your goals, but that you're going to push and persevere and push through. And there are things that you need to do to be determined and to stick to your goals. And then number three, which to be honest with all of you, is the one that I had to learn later than I should. And to this day, I need to do a better job of it. And that's really learning how to develop and cultivate networks. I can't tell you how important that is. A network of people who will become your sponsors, who will become your advocates. That is a skill. And it's more than just friending someone online. It's really about developing relationships of people that will be there for you, that will give you raw feedback, that will introduce you to other people and resources, that people that will hold up a mirror to you. It's just extremely important. And that's something that you need to do, because I learned that how important it was over time to learn how to market myself. I grew up at a time where my parents and grandparents basically said, put your head down, focus on your work, and good things will happen. And that may work for a while, but I learned that over time, without developing these relationships, you can hit a roadblock. So I'll pause there and turn it back over to Ademola, and we can answer some more of this in questions.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to hand it over to Lamont Atkins as well.
Oh, yeah, yep, sorry. Over to you, Lamont.
Hey, thank you, Franz. Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Lamont Atkins, and I'm a senior advisor in the cybersecurity practice here at McKinsey. and I'm based out of the Dallas office, although I recently just built a house in San Antonio, so commuting back and forth there best as I can. So I'm the rookie of the team that's joining you today. I recently joined the firm this summer, and that's after retiring from the Air Force after 24 years serving in the Air Force. And as you can imagine, that makes my pathway very different from most of my colleagues. I entered the Air Force in 1997 after graduating from the University of Alabama and never looked back. From a career pathway perspective, the military allowed me the opportunity to have a very diverse path and opportunity to build my skill set. I started very hands-on to include installing, configuring, and maintaining IT networks. And over about 4 to 6 years doing that, it really allowed me an opportunity to build a foundation in my understanding about IT and how networks work. A few years later, I transitioned to more project management and larger program management opportunities that span from small IT project management to being responsible for about a $2.2 billion IT modernization program across the entirety of the Air Force. But towards the midway of my career in the Air Force, I transitioned to cyberspace operations, where I led a team of planners to develop both offensive and defensive cyber operations that we would present to the White House for approval. I even had the opportunity to work on Capitol Hill for a year as a defensive fellow over in the Senate. So as you can imagine that, they pulled me away from managing networks to learn how to write legislation on Capitol Hill. So the Air Force has been a continuous learning opportunity for me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've had. In my current role here in the firm, in the cybersecurity practice, I enjoy serving my country and contributing towards the Department of Defense mission. So I'm starting out here in the United States government practice, where I get to continue supporting the Department of Defense, but on this side, right? And it's great kind of learning how we do things here at McKinsey and to work with the amazing experts like you see on the call here today. You know, they say at McKinsey to make your own McKinsey, and I'm trying to find the best approach to leverage my experience and the amazing experts we have here to continue supporting the Department of Defense mission. I'll share with you that I have 2 kids, 2 boys, both knuckleheads. They're 23 and 20 years old. One just graduated from the University of Virginia last year. My youngest, he's a junior at University of Texas in San Antonio. So they both want IT careers, and I'll share the advice I give them, and that's find what you love and become a continuous learner, right? This is a very broad career field, and there's something for everyone. Continue to be curious, find your passion, and become an expert. And the only way to do that is through continuous learning. I'll close by saying thanks to Dennis and the team at Blacks in Technology for the opportunity to join today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Lamont, and thank you for your service, by the way. Yeah, as you folks can see, not only the panelists have a different background in their application with how they use technology, but hopefully you could get a sense that the pathway into technology is not just one way. Many ways. Interesting enough, a few weeks ago, I don't know how many people have ever heard of Afrotech, but a few weeks ago, I was at the Afrotech conference in Austin, Texas, and there was a gentleman that I came across who makes a software called Black Foodie Tech, right? And what he wanted to do was create some type of an application that can easily and quickly connect Black-owned restaurants to customers, right? I don't know how he was able to get a huge directory of all of the Black restaurants in the different cities and states across the US, right? But it's just a simple app, right? You could download on the iPhone App Store, the Google Play Store, and voila, right? It connects you to a Black-owned restaurant. He saw an opportunity, right, that potentially, could be valuable, and he just went for it. To Franz's point on grit, right? Another point on networking, right? I don't want to underestimate that point on networking, because you just never know how connecting with people could open doors that you never even thought existed, right? At the firm, we have folks that were in law school that were actually practicing lawyers, but through networking, they decided, you know what? I think I actually want to get into intellectual property, technology, intellectual property, right? We have NFL players, right? That came into the firm and decided, you know what? I'd like to understand the mechanism, how technology is used to understand what goes on in the football field, right? And even in our day-to-day lives, right? I'm sure most of us use IG or Facebook, right? And you're shocked how you're driving somewhere and you have a location aware pop-up of either the Starbucks or a 7-Eleven. That's all technology at work, right? There is a place for every one of us in technology. It's about figuring out, what do you want to create? How can you network with people? And what are the skills to help you get it created? It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a big, grand idea. You'll be so surprised how the very basic of ideas could open many doors. With that said, let's probably just transition to some Q&A questions to the panelists before we then go into audience questions. So ladies first, what has changed most about the tech industry since you started? And once you answer that, if anyone wants to jump in, please do as well.
Oh boy. Well, you said ladies first. I'll speak more for the ladies then. I would say this: it has definitely transformed before my eyes. From my experience, it seems like it was a white male dominated industry coming in, and I didn't see initially a career path for me if I wasn't necessarily an engineer. Especially for my colleagues who were trying to enter from college going into Motorola or working specifically with certain firms. You had to be an engineer, a civil engineer, electrical engineer, et cetera. There wasn't too much talk about product. There wasn't too much talk about UX, UR. There wasn't too much talk about developing apps and software development, et cetera. I viewed it as a white male dominated industry. From what I've seen throughout I would say the past 5 to 10 years, I've seen it transform and career pathways that have opened up drastically. So it's not a very myopic view of things, but we're thinking about cybersecurity, as Franz and Lamont mentioned. You're thinking about products, you're thinking about transforming organizations, you're thinking about other things that wasn't, for me, available 10 to 15 years ago that are available now. But you see the drastic changes that are happening multiple times within a year. And I think that comes with the flexibility in how organizations and both people have to be agile and the push for change. So you have to be able to proactively implement things, safeguards in a way that if something happens, you have to react very, very quickly. In ways that I think about, we were moving in a slow nature, and I equate that to when I had AOL dial-up. And everything was moving slow, and there was a circle going around and around, and don't pick up the phone, you have to, then the internet connection goes, and you can't download your CD, and how rapidly things happen and occur now. Like you share Ademola, I had a BlackBerry and I loved it. But now if I had it right now, I'm just like, what am I doing? I can't send pictures, I can't send this video, it takes me 5 minutes to send something. I think technology has both helped us as an economy, but also hindered us, where we expect things in an instant. And everything has to happen very quickly, where we're not taking the time to develop things appropriately before they go out to market. So you see the multiple app updates with people's information that is at risk in there. There's data leaks continuously happening over and over again. But I do appreciate, for one, the efforts that are happening in regards to the opening of careers. I do like the efforts of the DE&I in technology. There's more opportunities for African American, especially for women, to advance. And then the possibility of encouraging the generation under us about the possibilities of careers in technology and the opportunities that they have to continuously grow and impact the economy, especially around when they think about what they can do, especially for the gamers, that there's money in gaming, not you just playing the video game, but you developing those games as well.
Perfect. And to your point on gaming, I think I read an article once that the gaming industry is about $500 billion or something like that globally. It's a huge industry, right? So you just think about how many different types of games or genres of games exist out there. Franz, probably to you, what are the biggest challenges facing the technology industry in your opinion today?
So it kind of echoes the previous question, which is, from the time that I started, I think the role that technology plays in our lives, I'm amazed, right? I only recently, this week, I went to the airport. I wanted to check in and I lost internet connectivity on my phone. And you wouldn't believe how panicked I was because I couldn't bring up, my pass to get in. And I was like, what did we do without the internet, right? So the rate at which technology has become a part of our lives and the speed at which technology is moving, with AI, with immersion technologies, autonomous vehicles, and you name it, it's become a part of our life. So with that opportunity and with all of that comes to threats, right? Mm-hmm. There's an expanded footprint, and Lamont can speak more about this in terms of the cyber threat, but that's the thing that keeps me up at night mostly. Mm-hmm. The adversaries are becoming more dangerous because they also have access to these technologies. And as we as a society become even more dependent on battery operated vehicles, the internet, you name it, it also puts a lot of that at risk. And so cybersecurity, in terms of an operational risk, that's the one that I'm really focusing on partnering with our clients to understand what are their vulnerabilities and how they can get ahead of it and how they can future-proof their business models and their business strategies to ensure that they're in their areas of growth for their businesses, that they're protecting it from a cyber threat perspective.
Yeah, and to piggyback on your point on the reliance on technology so much today, as we were preparing for this, I thought about, oh my gosh, what would I do without my smartphone? Because it has, for example, my navigation, right? I don't know who remembers those days where you'd have to go to the AAA store to get maps of the US to get around, right? So hopefully we're not dating ourselves. But Lamont, in your opinion, like Franz said about the cybersecurity threats, what are some of those threats, and what, in your opinion, do you think can be used to mitigate them as much as possible? Because these threats are like whack-a-mole, right? You plug one, another one shows up, right? So in your opinion, what do you think best can be done?
Yeah, I think just great following Shalana and Franz is this explosion of this we call it digital transformation era, right? From Internet of Things to cloud transition, remote access to anything, that's created a very large attack surface for hackers, right? We're seeing this play out today in the growing number of data thefts. We're seeing it play out in ransomware and just the theft of personal information. But now Franz mentioned, that keeps him up at night, kind of thinking about that and being concerned about it. But also wanted to point out for the audience today, that's also a huge opportunity from a career perspective, right? Because talent will always be needed in cybersecurity, and it will continuously grow at a very quick pace based on some of the threats that we've discussed today as we continue to this dependency on technology. And kind of to your point about how to do this, right? I think we're kind of trying to do this a lot within McKinsey, and the way we work with our clients is how do you bake cybersecurity into a technical rollout, right? Instead of bolting it on later in the process. Well, some of our colleagues in the cybersecurity practice recently wrote a report, and they mentioned that they stated that the cybersecurity industry will be at $2 trillion. We can get ahead of that, right? And I think that's that relationship between cybersecurity and IT as we develop and implement technology Because I think cybersecurity is a fuel, a catalyst for innovation, right? Because if I bake cybersecurity and I don't have to continuously update and focus on the security side of it, because I know I've done it up front.
Perfect. What do you wish you could change about your role today? And anyone could take that. And maybe I could start with me. I personally wouldn't change anything about my role, right? But I think I'd probably be more intentioned on my time, right? Because the tech space is so dynamic and things move so quickly. You could pretty much get consumed in it, literally on a day-to-day basis, right? If I just even use personal, Instagram as an example is an addiction, right? So I've actually had to force myself to just get it off my phone for about a month, right? So it's a case where my role, I would change nothing about it, but I will be more intentions about the amount of time I spend just consuming data, right? Because it could be a lot, right? Open to anyone.
Hey, I'll speak on behalf of my wife. I think she would say she would want me to travel less. But personally, I agree with you. There's nothing I would change about my role. Keep in mind, I've only been here 4 to 5 months. It's been an amazing ride thus far through the onboarding process.
I would say, oh, sorry, go ahead, Franz.
No, ladies first, please. Shalana, please go ahead.
I would say about my role, I would say allocate more time, probably for me, for professional development. I think, Ademola, you mentioned something. You get so inundated and caught up with achieving outcomes and what's the next piece and rolling out this transformation and who needs your help. And then you get so caught up sometimes. So wait, I had a goal, personal goal for myself that I wanted to achieve this quarter. And I pushed that down to the bottom based on other priorities that came up. And you're balancing, trying to have work-life balance and personal life and family and friends. You're kind of like, wait a minute, I wanted to take this course. So that's the one thing I would change, is making sure I'm sticking to that goal. And sometimes for me, it's having a sticky note on my computer and also writing it down. So I'm consistently seeing it over and over again. Say, Shalana, don't forget, you have goals and outcomes that you want to achieve, but within that role, you also have to continuously learn. And by me setting aside that time for professional development, it's not only going to help me in the long run, will also help me to drive towards those outcomes. So that's the one thing I would change within my role.
Yep. And Franz?
Yeah, I think my answer is going to be similar to all of you. And it's really about being more intentional and strict about wellness balance, right? So there'll always be more work. And for folks that are driven to succeed, you want to work hard. And when you're passionate about what you do, oftentimes time will stand still, and you don't notice the time going by. So I feel that for me, I would like to do better at, when I say wellness balance, working out, getting enough exercise, ensuring that I have enough rest and sleep. I think one of the things I love about working at McKinsey is, there is lots of continuous education opportunities. Mm-hmm. But to Shalana's point, if you don't hold yourself accountable to take advantage of it, I would say that if you ask me about the past 18 months, I have not taken fully advantage of all the opportunities I've had, because I've just had other important but other work that I didn't pause on or stop to balance. So that's my answer.
Perfect. Maybe we could open it up to some of the audience questions now. It's that way we allow for a good amount of questions that could be answered. Shannon or Dennis, do we have?
We do. We have a question here. I'm going to try to say your name. Sorry, Belle. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But I see that you asked about hiring. And so it looks like we have a link here for you. Also, at the very end, you'll see an email address that you can ask these questions to if you're looking for something specific, where you can talk with some folks from the recruitment team as well. So you'll see that email at the very end, but there's a link here in the chat about that. And then secondly, what are some positions that someone can shoot for if they've worked both in government and in big tech in a program management role?
Go ahead.
I would kind of piggyback off of what Franz shared earlier. I guess it depends on what you're seeking, or kind of what you're trying to get out of the role as well. Because I would say with McKinsey, it varies. There are people who come with different skill sets, and we don't know kind of what you're passionate about. But there, as Ademola shared, there's a link in their positions posted. But I would say think about what you want to get out of the role, and kind of what you also are bringing to the table, and what aspects you want to grow in. What excites you, what gets you excited to want to get up and work on this? What do you want to get out of it? What's your overall purpose that will make you happy at the end of the day? If you're working continuous hours, but you're getting so much out of it. So I don't think there's one correct answer for that question, but I want to say think about, given that you have experience in government and in big tech, what's your next goal that you want to achieve, and what role will serve that purpose?
Yeah, I know. I see a question here about what do you suggest would be the next tech career transition if your background is in support and help desk? I guess piggybacking on Shalona, I think first you need to think through what is it that you're passionate about, right? Because you don't want to get into something that you're not going to like, because you're going to end up wanting to change it at some point very quickly. But just thinking about that, the cloud is a big buzzword right now, right? Whether it's cloud development, cloud architecture, whether it's UI, UX in the cloud, with a lot of the larger cloud players, AWS, Azure, or GSP, the Google, GCP, sorry, Google Cloud provider. What I would say is there are many boot camps out there, loads of boot camps, right? So instead of the traditional, oh, I got to go to a college, get a 4-year degree or however long degree, there are many boot camps that offer you different flavors of things that you could tailor your needs to. Even within McKinsey ourselves, within the tech space, we are also realizing that it's faster for us to get folks that have gone through some of these boot camps, right? Especially the coders, right? Because there's such a need for folks in technology anyway, that waiting 2 years or 4 years for someone to finish that is just not going to help. And for someone who is, say, transitioning from the hospitality business and wants to get into technology, boot camps is really what it is. There's someone I had helped get into the firm 2 years ago, right? He actually came from the music industry. He actually used to make beats for Master Ace and Run DMC, right? He went to a boot camp here in New York City, and now he's one of our senior engineers in the development space.
We also have another question from Calvin. What advice do you have for professionals interested in switching into a career with more emerging technologies like blockchain, metaverse, and Web3?
Who wants to take that?
So, I mean, it's going to sound similar to what Ademola mentioned, but there are several ways to, I guess, build your skill set strengths. In my own history, when object-oriented programming, 3-tier architecture development, I didn't wait for the firm at the time to train me up. I actually bought books and took courses on my own to show that, well, first to understand whether or not it was something that I like to do, but then also to prove to myself that I have the aptitude and I enjoy doing it. So nowadays, one of the great benefits for this generation is just the plethora of information that's already available on the web for free. And you know, you have LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, Coursera, and even I myself have taken these courses to brush up and ensure that I'm ready to do it. So the good news is that there's tons of ways to get these learnings. And then also there are the classic educational institutions are all vying as well to serve you in these. So they also have certificate courses, many of them in these new emerging technologies. And you can just look into that, see if that's something that is right for you. But then the key is how to leverage your network to get in front of the right people to demonstrate this skill set strength, right? And, you know, my word of warning is that you must always remember that when you're transitioning, you know, to get started will require maybe a disproportionate amount of effort to get up to speed, because the people you're competing with are people many times who are the strivers who already knew what they wanted, have already been in it, have been doing it for 5 years and love it. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't transition. It means that you may just be discovering a talent that you have or a passion that you have later than someone else. And once you get, I've seen folks come in and transition, once they're turned on, you can't tell the difference. So for me, I would recommend all of you out there that if you have that passion in you, go for it. You know, go for it. Be courageous, be bold, go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You know what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to learn about yourself. Okay. I believe that life will help teach those lessons, but I think that, you know, the universe rewards the bold. So I'd definitely go for it, but you have tons of resources now.
Yep, and to piggyback on that, I just put a link in the Zoom chat. There's an article McKinsey wrote on value creation in the metaverse, right? That could be a starting point to just see what is the opportunity that exists, and based on that reading, then figure out where can you get yourself plugged in, and maybe a McKinsey plug. We have what they call McKinsey Insights, right? I'll put a link to that as well in the chat. It's not just a website, but in the various app stores that exist out there, whether it's the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, if you just do a search for McKinsey Insights, it gives you a plethora of articles that we have written across multiple industries and businesses and functions, right? So it's the cheapest and freest way to get information on how is McKinsey thinking about some of these things. Any other questions? Oh.
Thank you for that, Ademola. I did see this question about interest in online privacy, responsible innovation, because of the mention of some of the work and the skills that we're seeking. I did want to point out that the above where Ademola put in the chat for the McKinsey.com career search, part of the function is you can put in your interests, which we like to highlight that, because a lot of times you'll find things like diligence analyst and different things like that that you might not find exactly matched and paired to other careers offered at a Google or somewhere else. But it'll have very similarly aligned focuses for those tech skills. So make sure that you're looking at the interest when you're kind of searching through those careers. It probably will pull up 25 to 30 roles based on the first things that you put in. So it's smart in it thinking like that. And again, if you have additional questions or need to dig a little bit deeper about processes and interviewing or recruitment questions, any of those things, happy to walk you through with our team, because we do have office hours that we're available. And so you can email us at that. I know in the follow-up thank you note, we'll also have ways that you can keep in touch with us as well. Let's see, looking for additional questions.
What office? Many offices across the world.
And then for the office hours link, we'll send that out via email so that you can scan it, because you have to actually physically sign up for them, and you'll get different links based on different teams. So better to send via email, because you want to make sure you're on the right one.
Any other questions? Can you talk about McKinsey Federal? I don't know if Lamont, as long as we're not sharing anything too confidential, since you're in the .gov area.
Yeah. So my initial experience, I have been in the U.S. government space, where because I had a top secret security clearance coming out of the military, it was a good transition for me that allowed me to work with across the U.S. government, specifically within the DoD. So there's a lot of great opportunities, and I look at it truthfully as an opportunity to continue to serve from that perspective. So there's a lot of opportunities across, and it's not just in cybersecurity, but across the firm.
Yep, and sorry, Bill, if you want, I don't know too much about the government, but there's a link I just posted on the McKinsey Center for Government. You could probably read a little bit on the type of work that we do there. It has how we help our clients, the different government entities, as well as the people that are leaders of those entities as well. Any other questions?
I don't see any more in the chat or in the Q&A so far.
Yeah.
And if not, I can just give you my 1 minute closing remark.
Yep.
You know, to all of you out there, please know that, you know, we're in a time where there's some economic uncertainties, you know, rising inflation, geopolitical issues happening, and the leaders of business, when they partner with us at McKinsey, it's well known and published that we're telling them that the winners who are going to get through this and continue to grow, even in uncertain times, are those businesses that will have a sustainable growth plan, but that ones that are also inclusive. And what that means is it's inclusive of communities that are typically or usually left out of economic growth, and that there's massive untapped potential. And specifically for the Black community, that's what we're talking about. So this is a time of great opportunity for you. And what I'm saying is, industry is going to be looking for you to provide opportunities. And there's a time to be ready. And now is that time. So if you haven't spent the time to be clear about what you want to do, what you want to focus on, to tap into what you're passionate about, now's the time to take action, because there's, especially driven by technological change, there's massive untapped opportunity that's here today, but coming our way. And now's the time to be ready.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Franz. And with that said, Dennis, back to you.